I promised that I'd keep you updated on the immigration changes happening in Mexico, and I have got some new information to share. Keep watching. For the best advice about moving to Mexico, subscribe to my channel and hit the bell to be notified when I upload a new episode every Thursday. If you're new to my channel, welcome, and if you've been here before, welcome back. My name is Alex, and I moved to Mexico from the US in 2017. I've called Querétaro home ever since. Today's video is a follow-up to a video that I published about a month ago about the immigration changes happening in Mexico. I'm not going to rehash all of the changes in this video, so if you haven't seen that first video yet, I highly recommend hitting pause now, going and watching that video so you are all caught up, all up to speed. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing the experience of a close friend of mine who's been living in Mexico on the tourist visa for about a year and re-entered Mexico since these changes took effect. I will also be answering some of the frequently asked questions that I've seen popping up in my comments since my last video, as well as sharing some new information, a few things that I've learned, want to clear some stuff up about Mexico's regularization program. But first, if you could hit that thumbs up button to let YouTube know that we want to spread this helpful information to as many people as possible, I would really appreciate it. Now, since publishing my first video about the immigration changes happening in Mexico, a handful of people have commented on that first video, sharing their own experiences of entering Mexico and dealing with Mexican immigration, INM. You are, of course, welcome to head over to that video and read the stories that people are sharing. But in this video, I really wanted to share the experience of someone that I know personally, somebody that I trust, so you can get a better idea of what's going on. Now, for starters, this person is a Canadian passport holder with a history of traveling to Mexico. They've been living in Mexico since 2020, and you could consider them a perpetual tourist. After their last 180 days were up, they went back to Canada, spent 2 months there, and then flew back to Mexico City on November 17th. When they went through immigration, handed their passport, handed their FMM over to the agent asked how many days they planned to stay in Mexico. This person was prepared. They knew that some immigration changes had been happening, and they told the official that they wanted 180 days. When they said that, the immigration's official, their response was, "We don't do that anymore." In the end, despite going back and forth in Spanish, the INM official only granted my friend 60 days on their FMM. And my friend even had a return ticket ready to show the official, but they didn't care. They didn't want to see it. Now, I thought this was really interesting. My friend's travel companion, who does not have a history of living in Mexico, who does not have a history of even traveling to Mexico frequently, was also only granted 60 days on their FMM. Now, I have my temporary residency, but I can confirm that when I went through Mexico City at the start of November, when I was in line at immigration, I heard the INM agents asking tourists how long they planned to stay in Mexico. I actually overheard one exchange between a tourist and an INM agent, and when the INM agent asked the woman how long she planned on staying in Mexico, the woman responded, "Oh, about a week." And the agent really pressed her. They wanted to know, okay, how many days exactly? And I believe that they wrote the number of exact days on her FMM. My takeaways from what I saw in Mexico City, as well as my friend's experience with immigration in Mexico City, is that if you are traveling to Mexico, if you are entering Mexico, know the exact number of days that you want to ask immigration for. You should plan to have some sort of evidence to back it up just in case, just to give yourself the best possible chance of getting the maximum number of days. And that proof, that evidence can be accommodation confirmation or a return ticket. Maybe the agent won't want to see it, as was the case with my friend, but the more documentation that you have, the better chance you are giving yourself, because ultimately it is up to the agent that you are speaking with. Each I&M official, it's up to them. It's at their own discretion how many days they give you on your FMM. Now I want to go through and answer some of the frequently asked questions that I've been getting about the immigration changes happening in Mexico. First, why? Understandably, people want to know why these immigration changes are happening, why Mexico is deciding to do this now. However, for the time being, the Mexican government has not released any sort of official statement. So without an official statement from the Mexican government, any reason that I give you for why these changes are happening, it's pure speculation. To be honest, I don't really think that the why matters all that much. These changes are obviously happening, and I think the most important thing, the best thing that we can all do is make a plan for how we're gonna deal with them. Which brings me to the next frequently asked question. Do I really need to carry my passport and FMM with me at all times? In the comments on my last video, lots of people were concerned about carrying their passport and their FMM on them at all times. They were worried about it getting lost, about it getting stolen, and I completely understand. A couple weeks ago, Taylor and I were in Mexico City, and since Taylor doesn't have his residency card yet, he was in that same spot. He was carrying his passport and his FMM out with him all the time, all day, all night, and it wasn't convenient. And he was definitely, it added an extra element having to be hyper vigilant because he was carrying such important documents on him. For now, I maintain that it is better to be safe than sorry. I think it is so much better for me personally to just bite the bullet and carry my residency card around with me than to run the risk of getting stopped and not having the documents on me to prove that I'm in Mexico legally. Now, you've probably heard people say, maybe you even had these thoughts yourself, okay, come on, no one is really getting stopped on the street, Alex. I have heard stories from people, from sources that I trust, and that's enough for me. Like I said, better safe than sorry. In our house, I told Taylor that I want him carrying his passport and his FMM on him at all times, even when he runs out to get something at the grocery store, the corner store, whatever, because I really don't want to spend my holiday season trying to figure out how to get him out of a detainment center. That just that doesn't sound fun to me. If you are really set against carrying your passport with you, carrying your FMM with you, I got a few comments on my last video saying, oh, but what if I'm at the beach? Well, if that is the case and you just can't do it for whatever reason, then my advice to you is to have both physical and digital copies of your documents. So that means photos on your phone as well as a paper copy. Now, if you do happen to be stopped, the official won't be able to scan those documents, so you need to be prepared to explain in Spanish where your documents are, and personally, I wouldn't be further than walking distance away from them. What are my options if I get fewer than 180 days on my FMM? Your first option is to leave Mexico before your days are up. As I said in my last video, you really don't want to overstay that FMM, because if you stay longer than the days noted on your FMM, then you're in Mexico illegally and you're running the risk of possibly being detained. Your second option is to go to I&M. There are offices all over the country, all over Mexico. You can go to I&M and see if you can extend your time in Mexico, if you can renew your FMM. In theory, your FMM needs to be expired in order to renew it, but I recommend going a week or so before your document is set to expire to inquire whether or not you would be able to extend your stay, whether or not anyone in that office is willing to give you another FMM, just in case they say no and you've got to buy a ticket and get out of Mexico. With this option, I just want to remind you that it's up to the INM official, it's up to whatever agent that you get, whichever window you go up to, it is up to that person whether or not they're going to grant you more time in Mexico. They could definitely say no, but there's also a possibility that they could say yes. In my last video, I talked about the Regularization Program, which helps foreigners who've been living in Mexico get their residency without having to leave the country, essentially skipping the consulate step. The first thing that I want to clear up about the Regularization Program is that it isn't available at every INM across Mexico. In fact, the only two offices where I am sure that you can apply for the Regularization Program, where I'm sure that it is up and running in operation, are the INM offices in La Paz and Mérida. Now, I have also heard via the comments on my last video that foreigners have had success applying for the Regularization Program in Querétaro and Puerto Vallarta, but that is purely anecdotal. Unfortunately, as with the immigration changes themselves, there isn't anything official about the Regularization Program. If you think you might qualify, then I recommend going to the INM nearest you, whatever office that is, and asking about it. When Yvonne Pavan from Host Relocation explained the Regularization Program to me for my last video, she said that it was for foreigners who arrived in 2019 or prior to 2019. But in the comments on my last video, I've been hearing from some of you that you've had success applying for the Regularization Program and you arrived to Mexico in 2020. Welcome to Mexico, where consistently inconsistent is a way of life. The takeaway here is that if you think there's even a chance that you might qualify for the Regularization Program, that means you have been living in Mexico and you meet the economic solvency requirements, then I suggest going to the INM office nearest you and inquiring about it. Head on down to the INM office, shake the old tree of Mexican bureaucracy, and see if a temporary residency permit will fall loose. For more about the financial requirements to prove economic solvency, as well as how to go about applying for residency before you even get to Mexico, then check out my series about applying for temporary residency. I will put a link to those videos in the description below. If you have any questions about the immigration changes happening in Mexico right now, please feel free to leave a comment below and I will do my absolute best to get back to it. I'm Alex from backpackingbrunette.com. Thanks for watching.